10:30 a.m. on a Friday. Police are looking for a girl. They don't call it a rescue, but they may as well. Toronto Police's human trafficking unit is the largest in the country. Its mandate, to find young, often underage girls forced to work in the sex trade.
There's a good chance that they could be underage.
This is the start of a sting. Officers comb online sex ads, looking for clues of exploitation.
When the ad says that they're new to town, what does that suggest?
It suggests they're being moved from city to city, right? So they don't stay in one location for a long period of time.
Is that to keep them isolated?
Yes, absolutely.
Most of the officers work undercover. It's why we can't identify them.
One of those criteria of obvious exploitation is branding. Branding?
What does that mean?
Branding is where a pimp or someone who's controlling the young lady, they have a tattoo applied to their chest or somewhere on their body that's fairly visible to the public. And it shows as if they're the property of the pimp. You can see on her chest, she has an Air Jordan stamping or tattoo.
And these girls are treated as property?
They are, 100%.
It's an ugly, depraved world, and 95% of the victims trapped in it are Canadian girls.
So I'll be doing this live then.
To find them, police sometimes pose as clients.
So now I'm going to say basically I've landed in Toronto, that I'm going to go to my first meeting and I'd be available for an 11:30 meet where we can attend. So I received an immediate response that she was waiting for me. So I'm going to say, how's 11:30? So, it's okay, baby. See you. So the date is set for 11:30.
The team sets up 2 fake dates today. Both happen to be in the same hotel, 2 blocks away from police headquarters.
We have 2 investigative probes lined up for today.
Detective Rob Heitzner is in charge of the operation. He's agreed to show his identity.
People inside debriefing the girls.
Human trafficking is all about coercion. Victims have no control, give no consent to trading sex for money. Money they never see.
All right, so that one we got to be extra cautious that there's some pimp lurking in the background there. Okay, we got any questions?
Left turn, Jen.
Good.
The officers are armed and bring protective gear.
So I sent a text to say I'm 5 minutes out. I'm running a couple minutes late, but I'm on the way, and I'm just waiting for a response, and I haven't had any responses yet. So
This officer set up one of the dates. He fills our cameraman in on the plan.
I'll go into the hotel. You can follow me from a little bit of a distance. Hopefully before we get there, I'll have a room number, and then everybody will be on the same page and know exactly where we're going.
Okay.
I've asked now for said I'm about a minute out with requesting the room number.
Okay, we're on the young side, and I have the people with me. Here, Roger.
We wait for a response. So she's responding back. She wants to know my age and my ethnicity. So I told her.
Here, Roger.
All right, looks like this could be fluid. So she says, come up to the 15th floor.
Here, Roger. So we're second cover team's gonna go in, me and everybody, and once we're in place, you'll see on Telegram, and then we'll bring you in.
Yeah, roger that.
The detective doesn't know if he's texting with the young woman in the ad. It could be her pimp. These operations are dangerous. Pimps are often lurking nearby and are often armed. This could be a setup.
Okay, so there's the door. He's going to the door right there.
Several moments go by.
Okay, so what happened?
Right now, from what I saw when I went in, it doesn't appear that she's underage. She is young, probably early 20s, and the number one thing that we notice is she's not the girl that's in the pictures on Backpage. So that's another common thing when we set up these probes, you know, based on believing that the girl is underage and that those pictures are the person you're going to meet. And again, in this case, it's a totally different person who's using someone else's photos in their ad. And that, again, is something that we commonly see when we do these probes.
And when your officers are in there talking to her, how are they trying to establish whether or not she's been trafficked?
Once we get the conversation going, we start to get into some of the indicators that maybe she's not in control of what she's doing by asking questions. But it's a rapport thing too, right? You have to warm up to people. You can't just walk in there and say, hey, you're being trafficked, right? Like that's gonna lead to zero success. So.
The woman tells police she used to be trafficked, but insists she is now an independent sex worker. The detectives leave their contact information anyway. They sometimes get calls weeks, months later.
In terms of getting disclosures, it's not an ideal situation. The reality is they're in a hotel room. If they're being trafficked, they know their pimp's nearby. He's at the very least, he's on the phone. He's checking on them and, you know, controlling them in that way. And a lot of times the pimps are in or near the hotel. So it's not ideal for a disclosure that I'm being trafficked.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying? Because we have so many cases on the go, so many other avenues where we're introduced to victims and disclosures are gained that we can't spend a ton of time on this.
The unit has nearly 160 cases on the go.
I'll talk to you guys after the fact.
The only other thing we got going on is from Project Pineapple.
Okay.
We have Chris is visiting a victim today at Covenant House.
Stings are one way of finding victims. Police also get calls from community groups, frontline officers, and parents.
Okay.
Sergeant Detective Nunzio Tramontosi runs the unit.
How many victims is this with?
There's 7 victims.
7 victims?
I think
60% of the unit's victims are under 16. The youngest was 12.
And you've gotten the statement from them, from the girl?
Yeah.
Okay. These girls are basically the girl next door. That's what they are. They're girls, you know, they could be your daughter, they can be your niece, your granddaughter. They come from all walks of life, not just marginalized areas where we do have victims, but they come from, you know, parents who are lawyers, doctors, police officers. So it doesn't discriminate at all.
Schools, malls, amusement parks, all are a predator's hunting ground. And Tramontosi says, increasingly, so is social media.
These pimps, they know where to troll. A girl who says on her Facebook account, oh, I'm not feeling so pretty today. They take advantage of that, you know. They'll say, hey, I wish you were my girlfriend. I think you look fine. And that's how it starts. That process, that luring and grooming process where they exchange telephone numbers now. And then they meet and they start talking. And they start becoming, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend type of relationship, right? where he starts showering gifts on the girl, right? And then all of a sudden, she's hooked.
How long does that take?
It doesn't take very long. You know, that process usually takes 2-3 days,
That's shocking.
4 days.
2 to 3 days for a girl to suddenly be trafficked.
Yes, right? And it's a very small window.
Does that surprise you?
It does. It does. I never thought that could ever happen. But we see it day in and day out, every day here. You know, we've seen 204 victims here in the last 3.5 years. Okay? And the story is almost the same for every single one of them. You know? At the end of the day, they're selling these girls a dream. That's what they're doing.
The best way I can describe it is I had hit the jackpot.
Next on The National, a human trafficking survivor and police rip the veil off the silence.
This is the best my life has ever been. I have these people that are going to take care of me. I don't have to worry about anything. The best way I can describe it is I had hit the jackpot.
Carly doesn't want us to show her face. She especially doesn't want her grandmother to know. She was a runaway and hooked on heroin when she met her traffickers. They took her in, and she says they took care of her.
They asked me about my family. They asked me about my friends. They asked me why I was homeless. They asked me about my hopes and dreams for the future. I felt so special.
How long did that honeymoon phase last?
Not long. It didn't take long. My honeymoon stage was maybe 2 days.
At that point, her traffickers told her she owed them. She agreed to turn tricks and lost all control.
They took my photos. They posted my ad. They put their cell phone number on that ad. They took the phone calls. They decided what services I would provide. They decided how many people I would see a day. They decided how much money I would charge. Half the time I had no idea who was coming to my door or for what services. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't know what it was. I was being trafficked and had no idea there was a word for it. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us. So I'm Carly. I am a community outreach worker at East Metro Youth Services in our gender-based violence program.
4 years later, Carly is clean and out of the game, but her story still defines her.
I got out because of a police officer. And I think it's important to tell this story because he did everything right.
A police officer found her during a sting.
He showed up, he booked a fake appointment. He saw my back page ad, he saw the warning signs, so he showed up at my door, he showed his badge, and he came in. And he sat there and he spoke to me like I was a human being.
Carly now helps victims of trafficking. She also educates frontline officers so they can spot those victims. She no longer thinks of herself as one, but she still struggles with the shame.
The hardest thing for me was that I didn't know, or that I agreed to this, or that I didn't leave. You know, there's a lot of self-blame, and there's a lot of shame that goes along with working in the sex trade or being involved in a trafficking situation.
Carly is ripping the veil off the silence. So are police. Awareness, Tramontosi says, is critical, and it feels personal.
I think of my daughter. My daughter's 15. You know, my daughter's at that age where they recruit, okay? She's in high school, grade 10. That's what they're looking for. And you know what? When I see these girls, that could be my daughter. And that's what drives me. Okay, I think I'm gonna go up there and...
His message is stark.
This crime is about two things, and two things only. Power over the victim and money. Okay, that is it.
The money is staggering. Pimps make at least $250,000 a year off every victim. And they often have what they call a stable of girls.
We have pimps that are driving Bentleys, Ferraris, Maseratis, and they're out there because they're making that much money from these girls.
And remember, the girls don't get a cent. They barely get a meal a day.
You want to make sure that no other girl has to go through this, right? And it does, it keeps you up at night. It really does. We need to help them. We need to help these girls, you know. They're getting brutalized every day. They're getting raped every day, you know, 15, 20 times a day. They're human beings. You know, they're our children.
Our objective for today is to identify individuals who are willing to make purchases of underage girls, so obtaining to purchase sexual services of an individual under the age of 18.
Since the Human Trafficking Unit was created in 2014, detectives have made more than 250 arrests and laid more than 1,700 charges. They've nailed pimps and Johns too. That's who they're after today.
Okay, guys on the teams, just so one last point. The hotel doesn't know we're operating in their facility, and we're just going to leave it at that.
We meet up with officers at an East End hotel.
So this would be an arrest takedown area. This is an operational room. Everybody in here has a specific role.
Making sure that we're safe, that, you know, a gang of rival traffickers aren't coming in here with machine guns and machetes to attack us, right?
Who are you posing as?
So I'm posing as a 20-year-old girl.
The officers have posted their own fake ad. The girl in it is 20. But soon after any transaction begins, she will reveal she's actually 17.
Yes, you're acting as a 17-year-old person that's selling sex, but the reality is we're gathering evidence. Like, that's what we're doing here.
The ad goes live. We're asked to leave the room. Police say most potential Johns back out when they realize they're engaging with someone so young. But one doesn't. This man thinks he's on his way to have sex with a 17-year-old girl. He's arrested as soon as he walks into the hotel room.
He showed up as he promised, and he was surveilled up to this location where he was arrested by an arrest team inside of the room. I look at it like a triangle. I look at it as there's victims, there's traffickers, pimps, and there's the purchaser, the people that are buying the service. And each person has a role in these types of investigations. And yes, we want to do everything we can for victims. That's why we're doing the work. That's why all these people are doing the work. At the same time, we definitely take serious the fact that we need to lock these guys up.
The man is escorted out the back entrance, taken to a nearby police station. That's where he'll be booked with attempting to have sex with a minor. Joanna Rumiliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
And Joanna Rumiliotis joins us now. I'm sure a lot of parents are watching and wondering, how can they spot the warning signs?
They're pretty obvious in terms of inappropriate clothing. For example, a young girl dressing inappropriately, suddenly having very expensive clothing or jewelry or a designer handbag, something that would be out of reach financially for a person that young. Also, if most of these cases, it's a relational thing, right? So they identify their trafficker as their boyfriend, yet they're reluctant to bring them home. Those are the kind of warning signs that police say parents have to keep an eye out for.
And what do police say parents can do in that situation?
First off, they say be very aware of what your kid is up to. Be very aware of what they do on social media, because that's a huge hunting ground for these predators. Communicate with your kids. And something really old-fashioned, be unconditionally loving of your child, because they say that's a huge part of the reason these victims are so vulnerable. And ultimately, if these worry signs are coming up, call the police. They get a lot of calls from parents, and that's what they follow up on.
All right, Joanna, thank you.
You're welcome.